What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's another edition of the Countdown to the Geekcast. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me is the man behind the magic known as Joe Garcia.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I don't know if I'm excited or disappointed to be talking about the Mando season 3 finale. So let's get into this shit.
We're gonna we're gonna get there. We're gonna get
Oh,
there. Uh, all the way to my far right, David Lozano.
What's up, man? Yeah, let's get into this stuff.
Don't be scared. Don't church it up, man.
it's David. It's after 10 o'clock. You know what that means? It's
the
Geekcast after dark.
yeah.
Oh
It's
no,
the
here we go.
Geekcast
Here we
After
go.
Dark. That's where
Oh,
XXX
geez, it's that
rated
late.
Matty B comes out. There you go.
Speaking of which, my partner in crime, the one only Matty B.
Viva, gentlemen! Just returned from Mexico, and I'm officially no longer the gringo of the podcast. I got a tan. I ate some authentic Mexican food. And I'm feeling right. But when I got back to America, you know what I had to find in my fridge right away? Let's crack that Miller Lite and get it going. You know what I'm
There you
saying?
go. You didn't
It's
bring any
Miller
back. You didn't
time.
bring back any Mexican bricks. Drinking some
Nah,
mezcal.
yeah, none of that square grouper, and none, yeah, we'll see. I might have some tricks up my sleeve. I might have some gifts for you guys too. So
There you go, man.
we'll see. We'll see.
Hey.
We'll see.
And last but never the least, the one and only Retro Ray.
What's going on, guys?
It's
Loving the hat, man.
Yes, sir. Had to bring it out.
No little Grogu
Absolutely.
today on the shirt, man. I'm disappointed, Ray.
I actually don't have a Mandalorian shirt.
No.
I have the hat, but I don't have the shirt.
Yeah, you got to add that to your repertoire, man. You got to get the Mando shirt next.
That will be next.
Will somebody
Absolutely.
get this guy a Star
What's
Wars
up?
shirt?
Already got the phone case.
There you go.
Hey, that is
There you go.
nice.
Hey,
There you go.
is that bo-katan? Because Maddie's a fan of that.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Look at that.
but Catan.
Oh, after dark indeed. We got a great show for you folks. We are dedicating everything tonight to the Mandalorian season 3 finale. If you haven't watched it, we're going to be spoiling the hell out of it. If you have watched it, we want to hear from you guys. Get in the chat. Let us know what your favorite moment was, what worked for you, what didn't work for you, and we're going to jump right into this. Every time since the beginning of the season, we talk about The Mandalorian. It always starts off with a summary, and this one goes a little something like this. Chapter 24, The Return. Grogu is quickly able to rescue Din, and now he hunts for Moff Gideon. That's how we open, by the way. He wasn't really captured for all that long, which is surprising. Speaking of which, Moff Gideon, the man is cloning himself, which was a long-standing theory from like episode 1, confirmed, and he was attempting to harness the Force for his said clones. Battle in the skies as the Mandalorians regroup and battle the Imperial forces. Din and Grogu are able to vanquish the Praetorian guards with Bo-Katan's help. They also defeat Moff Gideon. Din becomes Grogu's adoptive father, rebuilds IG-11, Bo-Katan claims leadership over Mandalore, and they all lived happily ever after. The end, which I threw in there because it is almost like not the end of a chapter of this Mandalorian series, but it sort of feels like the end of the entire book. And I know we're expecting a lot more content to come out from this show, and it's also going to cross over with other shows. But I want to get your guys' instant reactions. Joe, I'm going to start with you, man, and I know you have a lot to say about it. But your initial reaction once the episode ended, was it a positive emotion? Was it a negative one? Let us know.
No, man, this had all the makings of Hill Country Fair, and they're trying to church it up to you like it's name brand, charging you the same premium price but putting out a shit product, man. This was more of the same. Disney's just gotten lazy, and this whole season has been mid-tier. I'm not going to church it up, and I'm not going to lie. I'm going to call it as it is, and I'm not the only one that thought that way. I looked over on the social media and see what the kids are saying on the Twitters, Facebook, everywhere. And a lot of people felt the same way. It was just kind of ho hum. They expected a lot more. and they expected more from the buildup, especially going back to when Moff Gideon was introduced. You see him being taken away, and then we find out, okay, he made a jailbreak. The beginning of this third season was pretty, I guess, interesting, because it looked like they were setting things up. But once again, Disney gets in their own way and just kind of shits the bed at the end. They give us a 32-minute season finale. I'm like, what? WTF? That's what I thought. Come on, man. You got to give us a little bit more than after all the buildup. You're going to just give us 32 minutes. Oh, man. And then they go back, and there was a lot of things that were wrong with this episode. For one, Moff Gideon cloning himself. Okay, whatever. But
What's wrong with
going
that?
a step further, and now he's like, oh, well, all these clones were going to be force sensitive. I'm like, bruh, come on now. I mean,
That
no,
makes perfect sense.
no, it doesn't, Ted.
Why not?
It makes no damn sense, man. You're gonna
That's
tell
why.
me that
That's
this
why they're
brother,
hunting for
you're
Grogu to
gonna tell
begin
me that
with.
this brother was more savvy than the Emperor himself. They could only make one clone that was all looked like he was made out of some scraps, didn't even have a finger or nothing. He had to suck the life out of Rey and Kylo Ren to finally be complete. They couldn't make a single complete clone of the Emperor, but they could make all these clones of Moff Gideon force sensitive, and he was going to have the Beskar armor. Everything was going to be enhanced. I'm like, no, mames. I'm like, come on, man.
I know what that means now. I just got back from Mexico.
Lazy. This is just some lazy ass
Oh,
writing, man.
shit.
Like somebody got together in a room and said, I got nothing, man. What y'all got for me? And this is the best they could come up with, man. I'm just like, oh no, man. I don't have high hopes for other Disney Star Wars series moving forward, man. I think the idea's kind of gotten away from them a little bit.
I gotcha. Now let's go to post Vizsla. I mean, David Lozano, your initial reaction after the episode had ended. And I know you and I had actually talked about it early this morning, but let us know again, man.
This was the greatest show of all time. I love Kathleen Kennedy so much.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm dipping out, man. This live stream is over.
No, Ted was right. I was in agreement. We thought it wasn't the best finale. It's probably the worst out of the
32
three
minutes?
total seasons. Well, actually, it's 42 minutes, I think, listed
You're gonna
on
include the
Disney
end
Plus.
credits?
But I guess you got to subtract 6 minutes for credits. But no post credit scene. We got nothing as far as like a big payoff. That's what Ted brought up last night on our pre-show and post-show for the Star Wars Stuff podcast. And there was a lot of unanswered questions. Who were the spies? Didn't get that. It felt like we're going to get her at some point. I think a couple people here thought maybe bo-katan was going to turn eventually. She never did. Axe Woves never turned. The armor, moral, I mean, total honorable actions throughout. So that was kind of an odd story choice, but I mean,
she's got horns on her armor, on her.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, and we made the connections to Mandalorians possibly, but that style of helmet could be traced back to the very, very first classical style helmets at some point in Mandalorian history. So that could be kind of a bad lead. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that we didn't get. And to have Luke Skywalker at the end of your season, how are you going to top that, really? We had speculation maybe we'd see Han and Chewie show up in the Falcon. I mean, that's the only way that you could top that with Luke and Leia in the cockpit there. But yeah, it's I don't know. The action was really good though. The Mandalorians flying in the air. That's something we haven't seen in live action. We've seen it all in animation, but all those Mandalorians together on screen in live action, that's something I think we've all kind of dreamed of. And we finally got that with bo-katan with the Darksaber fighting Moff Gideon. But yeah, it wasn't the best ever. I don't think I'd go as far as Joe and saying it was like horrible, but yeah, I think we're expecting a whole lot more. But we do know they have a plan. Jon Favreau has come out and said he's written season 4. Some people are saying he could be lying. The way that this season ended almost made it seem like this was the end cap of the entire series. But we know Filoni's going to direct the film. We got that news from Star Wars Celebration. That's going to be the climactic event. So we're going to see more of Din and Grogu. Ahsoka's up next in August. So I don't know. We might get that kind of interruption like we got in Book of Boba Fett, where we had Din and Grogu episodes only. I don't know. Maybe that's a possibility. But yeah, it was, the finale was a little disappointing.
Can I ask you a question, David?
Sure.
Uh-oh.
Did you get a little bit of the Darth Maul vibe from Moff Gideon's attire? You know, his Beskar armor and all that, red and black, and he had the horns on the helmet and everything.
Yeah, definitely. We have, I believe it was
There were
Rebels.
several calls to Darth
Yeah.
Maul. Even he had the
Double
staff.
bladed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, did Moff Gideon actually die in the end? I mean,
That's
that's the
the
big
thing.
question.
Well, the tie-in here is it goes back to episode 7. Not to detract from the show here, but back in episode 7, Moff Gideon was talking to the other Imperials in the Shadow Council, and it seemed as though they were really setting up Thrawn and the Emperor and this plan, right? And who was going against that plan? It was Moff Gideon. Who would have a reason to go against the Emperor and all them? Maybe someone who was loyal to the Maul, to Darth Maul, who had beef with those factions. So it would make sense a little bit that he would suit himself in a way that was anti what everyone else in that Shadow Council was pushing. And so I thought it made total sense that he came out sort of Mandalorian in that sort of, because obviously he respects the Mandalorians. He also respects the Force. He respects the Empire, but he wanted to make his own thing. I thought it made perfect sense, and he looked great.
Yeah, the
We
helmet
also need,
style was pretty
yeah.
cool.
Maddie, let's get your initial reaction. Did you watch the episode? You watched the finale? Did you have a positive feeling afterwards about it, or was it kind of mostly negative, or somewhere in between?
Well, they brought me up a little bit. I mean, episode 7, I think, is the best episode of the series. And then I was really hoping for something in episode 8. And I was really hoping for maybe Grogu to break out, because we saw that scene of Din Djarin being taken away. And that would be the thing that like broke him out. Maybe we find some power that he learned from Luke that we haven't seen him do yet. Which we end up doing later, but it's more of a defensive move. It's clear he's not really on offense. I found myself logically not understanding kind of things that happened in this episode and how it wrapped up. And a little bit of that does deal with Grogu. Early on in the season, I don't know if it's episode 2 or episode 3, we see him trying to escape the caves of Mandalore getting out, and he force pushed this monster. Boom, knocked him out right away. And yet he didn't pull that move once during this entire sequence. He force pushed objects away. He force pulled objects away. He jumped and leaped and did a few of these things, and he had the force bubble at the end with the fire screen. But really, that's all defense. At no point did he really take an offensive position, and I thought that he would. And at some point, the kid's got to grow up. And so I'm hoping if the story continues, maybe he can, his huevos will drop.
You know what, Maddie? Maybe he hasn't been trained like in offense. It seems like all this time he's been trained in defense, but not really on offense. And when it was going to get interesting, when Luke said, "Hey, I can give you a lightsaber," he chose to go with Daddy instead. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jedi's training defense, offense is dark side stuff.
There you go.
But I mean, I've seen some pretty offensive moves from some Jedi. That's all I'm saying. I think when push comes to shove, that's when you pull it out. You don't use it as a first resort. And but I was hoping to see something there. I thought it was really cool as we're approaching the release of Jedi Survivor. We had a lot of video game elements in this episode, especially when Din Djarin is going through the blaster walls or the red walls there. Each time it's a very video game progression as it's sort of bossing and leveling up. There was a nod to the Force Unleashed game, right? When he goes through and sees the Moff Gideon clone tanks, that's almost an exact replica scene from Force Unleashed 2. when Vader's walking through, and the same thing happens because Starkiller opens his eyes. It's like a direct nod to it. And so I kind of like some of those elements as we're getting into the video game and sort of nodding back to the video game elements of Star Wars. Why do they keep getting caught in traps? Why do they keep getting led into traps? These are like, this is 2 episodes in a row now where they're obviously being led into traps. Din goes through this whole thing to get through these doors, and he walks through this other door looking for Moff Gideon, and guess what? A door drops behind him. And
Mm.
it's like, why do they keep leading themselves into traps? Um, the Darth Maul references I thought were throughout the episode. I thought they were incredible. And I did like the sort of Kanan callback to when Grogu did the Force shield.
The bubble.
Yeah, the bubble. I
Yeah.
thought that was really really cool. Overall, the season is mid. Everybody knows it. We could talk our way around it. I'm trying to separate my wants from something and realizing that the artists may have a different look at it when they're making it. Either way,
Agreed.
I see a lot of Kathleen Kennedy in here. I see a lot of Jurassic Park actually in this entire series, and I'll do maybe a whole special pointing out each one. There was one particular in this episode. I don't know if you guys noticed it. Direct reference to Jurassic Park, and that was they're in the cave garden below
Life finds a
Mandalore.
way.
He said, "Life persists."
Life finds a way. There it
Yeah,
is.
in your best Jeff Goldblum. Um, and then, of course, Bo takes over. And, you know, it just seems to me that the leaks and rumors that I was hearing from the studio earlier in the season about John Favreau being upset about Kathleen Kennedy over control kind of makes sense for why the season kind of went the way that it did. And so, overall, I don't hate it. I wouldn't trade it for Kenobi because I would only go back to Kenobi for fight scenes. But I mean, I think maybe like a 6.7, 6.8 for me on the season.
I was talking about that last night, and I was actually somewhere similar to where you were. Retro Ray, your initial reaction, sir. Finale's over. Did you have sort of some positive emotions about it, some negative ones, or just somewhere in the middle?
I mean, it was definitely. I mean, I liked it. I mean, I was expecting longer. I was seeing the twist. I was expecting the armor to be the one that was a spy. Didn't see that coming. But overall, I mean, the special effects, the fight scenes were freaking awesome. The Moff Gideon, it kind of felt like he was wearing an exo armor suit
It did.
because when he was moving slow, and then it seemed like he was stronger especially when he crushed the dark saber. It felt like his hand was like robotic. But the same thing that they brought up was it actually him or was it an actual other clone? And Moff Gideon is still alive. You know what I mean? So it leaves that open at that aspect of it. That's just my opinion that I see. But overall, I mean, the series is good. I was expecting different outcome. Of course, what we talked to when we had the other shows we had, how we're expecting, bo-katan to turn, the armor to turn. Didn't see that at all coming at all, especially the dark saber thing. I didn't, after building up the whole story around the dark saber, them crushing it like that, I didn't see that coming.
I on a stream actually said the dark saber is going to get destroyed. But I didn't think it was going to get destroyed by Moff. I thought it would either get destroyed by Din or maybe Bo because they'd be fighting over it. That everybody thought we were going to have turmoil between Din and Kreese this whole time, and midway through, I just gave up on that idea because it didn't seem like we were going to go there. For me, the
Yeah.
finale, the first half was very entertaining. It was energetic. It was fast paced. Loved the battle scenes in the skies. All of that was really cool. Everybody got their licks in, and armor was kicking ass. Yes, I apologize to the armor. I said you were gonna turn on everybody, or you were you were a part of the Shadow Council or something along those lines. But the only reason why I did that is because it was between what episodes 6 and 7 maybe that she did a 180 with Bo and was like, "Oh, you saw the mythosaur, you must go off now on your adventure. It's like you didn't say that the first time, but it was just awkward. Maybe this is a result of several people writing different stories for every episode, because that's what's happening, right? We're not like, I mean, I know we have showrunners. You got Filoni, you got Favreau, but I think it does feel like different people are writing these episodes, and they're cohesive to a certain extent, but they're also meant to be separate adventures and side quests. The finale, wish it was longer. I just looked at the time, 35 minutes. And all I really just felt like I had no more interest afterwards, because it didn't feel like there was anything to look forward to. So, not that there was no interest because I thought it was horrible, but it just seemed to tie up everything over the last 3 seasons, and if it ended today, we wouldn't really need to watch anything going forward. You gave Din a house, you gave him a life with Grogu. It's like,
Din Grogu.
Yeah, don't
with
forget
Din
that.
Grogu.
But also,
Absolutely.
the point you're talking about right now, Ted, is so important. Especially the outro that they chose, the filter they chose to outro it with, the Looney Tunes outro of
Little
the
circle, that spotlight.
circle into black screen. There was no cliffhanger to leave you any reason to believe that a season 4 is something to be excited about. And I think I find it kind of weird. Although the final shot was beautiful, although on Navarro, I don't know how that frog would be existing in those hot springs, but that's a story for another day. But it's I don't know, what are they doing?
I think what's happening here is I expect a time jump to happen sooner or later. And I think it might happen between seasons 3 and season 4, especially during that Mandalorian movie that's been rumored. Uh, Showing Din and just kicking back out there in front of his house and watching little Grogu out there playing with the frogs, doing his little force training or whatever he was doing. I think that's just showing you, hey, this is going to be a chapter that's going to close on their saga right here, but something else is going to happen in season 4. I expect a time jump to occur. And did anybody else catch that little interaction there between Grogu and the Mythosaur at the very end? He put his hands out into the water and he kind of like, hmm, you know, he could sense the Mythosaur and the Mythosaur could sense Grogu. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's a nod to something that might be coming, sooner or later. So, there are a lot of little things that
Yeah.
they kind of ended to make you think. But like you said, Maddie, it was nothing that jumped out at you that's like left you on a cliffhanger and be like, wow, I got to see season 4, you know?
Well, it's like you had a stake, like we literally, and David talked about this a little bit earlier. Um, and he said, "Well, how do you top that?" Well, I don't know. You have to find a freaking way to top Luke in season 2. You can't just say, "Oh, we can't top it, so we're just going to throw out a mid season and just say, oh, well, we couldn't do anything to top that." So, which is bullcrap, and we know it. They can do it, and for some reason, we always talk about this. Every Star Wars stream I'm on, why don't they just give the fans what they want? What is the roadblock? What is the hesitation of just giving the fans what they want? There is no reason. It's not money. It's not talent. It's not, there is no reason other than they just don't want to. Somebody there just doesn't want to. And it's weird. Why is that?
Yeah, what made the
Because they
Mandalorian,
want you
I
to.
think what made the Mandalorian so interesting right out the gate was it was a new character, kind of that gunslinger vibe, that old
A
western,
Western.
a
Yeah.
spaghetti western kind of vibe. And it had a lot going for it, but then somewhere along the lines, I think they just lost their way. I'm sorry, Ray, go ahead.
Well, no, just what I was going to say was it's just if they gave you everything right away, then you wouldn't continue watching it. They gave you everything all at one thing, one sitting.
But there's
You know what I
so
mean?
much,
They're dragging.
but it's not like there's one.
Yeah, there's so much they're giving you.
But what I'm saying is that there isn't just one golden pot at the end of the rainbow. There isn't just one
Yeah.
thing that they could give you. The lore is so deep. They could give you that
Well,
Luke
I mean, there's
Skywalker
like
moment for 4 seasons. They could give you that
Well, I mean, it looks like
over
they're
and over
setting
and
it
over
up.
again.
Well, it looks like they're setting it up. I mean, because you think about it, if you stopped and when you looked at the picture, they one from after Return of the Jedi, we all assumed Boba Fett was dead. Mandalorians were not. I mean, there was only one Mandalorian that we knew about at that time frame was Boba Fett. I mean, technically, at that point, he wasn't really a Mandalorian because he was a clone. But at the same time, when they filled up those holes, now we see them bringing the Mandalorians back together. I feel that at the end of that, when we saw them all together, we're going to see them later on down the line. That's my opinion. Down the line, we're going to see them in the new Jedi movies with Rey, because if they're building the Mandalorians back together, they're building up the clan back. Mind you, yeah, we didn't see it in Rise of Skywalker or anything like that, but I think they're filling in those holes so that when they do these next three movies, we're probably going to see that young kid that that the dad died. We're going to probably see him as a kind of grown up later on in the new movie.
That could be a thing.
I'm just like I said, I'm just speculating on that. But you get to factor in they're setting that up at the same time at the bar. He has when he's talking to the fighter pilot, he's telling them, I'm going to work with you. I'm a mercenary or whatever. But he's like, oh, so you're going to work with the New Republic? And then he says, oh no, he's going to work under the radar. So it kind of seems like, I guess that's what the next season's going to be, where he's going to be working the outer realm of where they can't cover. That's just my opinion. That's just what I got from that.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
we-
totally what I got from that too. I like that you brought that up, Ray, because Carson Teva speaking with Din Djarin in that bar, that set up the next season, and it was basically a reset back to season 1, where he was kind of this like lone gunfighter, and he says he's going to work on stuff case by case basis. So he's going to be working with the New Republic, still keep in touch. But for someone like me, it's like I know that there's going to be more interconnected stuff like Ahsoka and Skeleton Crew. And that trailer they showed us at Celebration had one of the villains, one of the pirates in the trailer. So that's going to factor heavy. Navarro is probably going to factor heavy. So it's all going to come together. And it sounds like they devised a plan. And it's like they had that landmark they had to hit where Din Djarin and Grogu had to end up back at Navarro, and Moff Gideon had to be taken out, and they had to progress that storyline. And I think all roads kind of led to that point, and that's how they kind of decided to end it, and didn't really look at, okay, the singular one episode, we got to top Luke Skywalker. I don't think they're seeing it that way. They are seeing the long game here, and it's just a tiny piece in what the grand story is, and that's the way they're looking at it.
Because they gave us, like you said, they teased, Thrawn and all that. So with Ahsoka, that's what we're going to see, Thrawn, and then possibly maybe see, Mandalorian in an episode, maybe.
Yeah, the only way that this whole thing is going to go ahead and make any sense is if they go ahead and find a way to interconnect everything. If they don't connect the other series to Mando and Mando to these other series, it's all for naught.
Well,
that's what they said they're going to do.
They've been doing that.
And the thing is, it has to work. I mean, you plan on doing this. I've seen what they've done already with the Book of Boba, what they've done with Mando. Now, okay, now we're going to have Ahsoka come out. I don't really have high hopes for them. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm kind of treading on thin ice here. You see that at times the episodes can give you a lot, give you some fan service. But at the end of the day, it doesn't fully deliver what Maddie's saying. It doesn't really give us, the fans, exactly what we want. They say we're going to give you a little taste, but not the full enchilada. So I'm still kind of hesitant to really go all in and expect great things, only because we've seen the product that they put out so far, and it's just been a little lacking. That's all I'm saying.
I think at the beginning of this season, if you were to tell anybody on this panel, we're going to see Mandalore, you're going to see a Mythosaur, you're probably thinking to yourself like, oh, cool, they're going to give us everything we ever wanted. And maybe just like because they didn't use it to its full potential, it doesn't hit as much as we thought it would. I also think that the Ghost Crew, Star Wars Rebels, like that is something that we didn't know we were going to get up until this season, and now it's like that's going to be almost on the same level as Luke Skywalker. Live action renditions of the Ghost Crew, that's freaking phenomenal. And I can't wait to see that. So that's going to,
Yeah, but isn't
bring
that a little bit?
the entertainment factor back up.
You see
Anyways,
what you're saying, Ted, is
Yeah,
it's the execution, man. That's
yeah.
exactly what you're
But,
referring to.
yeah, what I'm saying is that I went back in to complain at Whataburger because they didn't put cheese or condiments on my hamburger, which I ordered, and I knew what I was ordering. And the manager says, "Well, didn't you see the extra fries we threw in there?" No, I came for the burger. The extra fries. I don't care. It seems to me as if Disney knows they need a movie so bad, and they know people hated the last movie so much, and they loved the Mando so much. They're like, we have to really mid out these TV shows so we can really start to hype up a movie.
they're sabotaging themselves. That's what it is.
No, it's not sabotaging themselves. It's people in charge who don't care about the TV show. They don't make any money from Disney Plus. They want to drive something towards a movie, a blockbuster, which we may not get by the time the delays are finished. It's going to be 5 years before we see a movie. It's like, I mean,
2025,
it's
2026.
by the time that you know what I mean. It's like,
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm so sick of the
Well, I
corporate
mean,
structure of Disney not being able to utilize their money in proper ways. They don't have to wait for a big payoff in the cinema. There's so much lore here. Every episode of everything they do could be a Luke Skywalker episode. I mean, there is so much there. I don't get it.
yeah, but you factor in too, like they're introducing. You got to think about it. They introduced all these new vehicles, of course, the Razor Crest. Who people dropped? What was it, $600 for the Razor Crest? And they
1,200
destroyed
bucks.
it, and now they entered. Oh,
About
1,200. Sorry,
Jesus.
and oh dang. Okay, so and then they came out
And
with
they
a new
tried to
ship,
sell me
of
one at
course, and of
Celebration
course,
right here.
oh nice. Well, that's what I'm saying. So they're not just getting it; they're introducing all the new characters so they can create. You got to think about it. They're going to make the new IG, the Marshall version now. That's going to be a figure. It's going to be probably a Black Series. That's where they're looking at making their money. They're prolonging it so where they can introduce all these new characters, because we're going to get those new Emperor troopers as well. We're going to get those as well. I mean, so they're introducing all these characters. So they're looking at the toy line as well. That's a big pocket in
I get
itself.
that, but I'm
separate
saying at the end of the day, I think
from
what
the
Matt is
shows.
referring to is smart marketing. If you're going to go ahead and deliver a product that you warrant to say uh, somebody to go ahead and pay a monthly fee for example, with Disney Plus, you're going to pump so much money into creating a series, hiring actors, artists, directors, all this for what? Just so you can market me or peddle me a couple of action figures? Bro, come on. Let's
Yeah,
make money on the actual product itself.
and at
Everything
least
else that happens is gravy.
and make sure the story's good,
Yeah.
right? Like we don't need action figures of the guards from this show. We got those in the Rise of Skywalker. I mean, or the Last Jedi. I mean, like a lot of this stuff is the same. I mean, how hard is it to repaint the same Mandalorian figure with different colors?
Yeah,
I
but I get
mean,
what you're saying, Ray.
it's just
Yeah, well,
I'm
no, I
just
mean,
tired of being
it's like I said,
marketed
it's
to.
just
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, I mean, like I said, it's basically and Disney Plus in general is not catered just for Star Wars. It's going to be for everything. So they're basically, I mean, you think about it. Parents who watch it, who have kids, they sit their kids in front of the TV and put the cartoons on and just let them watch TV
Yeah.
for
As
hours.
adults, though,
You know what I mean? 'Cause
what's
you
the
think,
one thing that you like reading?
what was
What's the
that?
one thing you like reading? You're a big comic book guy, right?
Well, I mean, see, like when you go comics is a different. You're hitting a whole
No,
new
but I'm
We
different
don't have
saying,
thing,
we don't
man.
have enough time for that.
but I'm saying it's the
So
same
yeah,
thing, though. Like, for example, you have the
well,
Mandalorian, right? In order to go ahead and connect some of these dots and make the continuity of the story flow even better, give us something that's happening in between. Release it as a comic book.
well, see, this is where you're getting into that. So in the comic world, they do the same thing they do to you here. So in the comic world, they give you this story, got an awesome cover page. Your cover is badass. But then when you open the interior art, it don't match what's in the front page. And then on top of that, if the story's crappy, you're like, man, the art sucks and the story sucks. but they got you because the cover looked awesome, and you're like, oh man, I'm gonna pick this
That
up and
same
read
thing
it.
happened this season.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. They do it. It's just that's their marketing. I mean, and unless like you said, unless you're hardcore and you've got okay, this comic's being written by perfect example, Cullen Bunn, who's written, to me, he's the Stephen King of the comic world when it comes to writing. Anything he does, I'll buy. I mean, I don't care what covers on it. Anything he does, I'll buy it just because his stories are awesome. But unless you're really etched in on there to know what to expect, who's writing it,
Yeah,
who's
but
directing it. I
comic books
mean,
have an advantage here because you're receiving something tangible. So, let's say the story sucks, but the cover art's awesome. When your buddy comes over who likes comic books, you could pull it off of your shelf and say, "Boom! Look at this! Look how cool this cover art is." You have something tangible. You have something to add to your collection. So TV is something very different. I mean, when your buddy comes over, you go, "Hey, I got Disney Plus. Look at all these episodes of The Mandalorian that I have," because it's a different medium. And
yeah,
the the comic book world also is so stretched because everyone's told every story so many damn times that
yeah,
but with this like with this TV medium in Star Wars, David, you know what I'm talking about. They have so much to pull from
Yeah.
that there is no reason whatsoever to have anything mid ever. Like, it doesn't have to be the case. And so to me, it seems like they're dumbing down the shows because people weren't hyped on movies. They're worried about a movie flopping. So if they can make the shows, you know, if they could shift the fan base a little bit and then direct everything on the TV shows towards a film, then they could blow a blockbuster out and then get the monkey off their back of the financial guys in the boardroom. It's just Disney marketing. It's just Disney business has taken over my childhood love.
Yeah, it's the corporate structure that's lacking over there, especially when you have to fire your CEO, then you get the old CEO to step in and kind of clean up the mess, and you think it's going to be going in a different direction, and it
Shirts
seems to be
and
going the
ties.
same way. Yeah, it's like something's got to change there. I think it's just the corporate structure that's kind of ruining everything.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the episode a little bit.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it's very rushed, and I talked a little bit about this on the previous stream with David. There's a lot of twists and revelations that we learn. I mean, Moff Gideon telling us like these are my clones. Just seeing his face, Giancarlo's face, and all these tanks, and then learning that he's actually trying to harness the power of the Force. Like that should be a massive, massive revelation. But the fact that like this whole episode we're just kind of sprinting through all of these scenes, it didn't hit as much as I think they wanted it to. It should have been way more impactful. Like this is the arc from season 1. These are the mysteries that they just revealed from season 1. The reason why Dr. Pershing is around, the reason why they're after Grogu this entire time. Like this is supposed to be a huge payoff, and it falls a little flat. And it really shouldn't have. We needed to spend more time um letting these details and the drama resonate with the audiences. It was 35 minutes is not enough for a finale for The
yeah, no,
Mandalorian, where you are what's it called? You are concluding some of these plot points from season 1. Like it should have been more dramatic. It should have resonated more with the audiences, and it's really unfortunate that some of these things are falling flat. I, it's really odd that
It's almost like the characters were playing the video game on the easiest mode possible. It's like you set it to very low difficulty because every difficult thing that they had to accomplish happened like that. And then there was little tiny things that they dealt with that took them forever. But like it really wasn't that hard actually for Bo-Katan to reclaim Mandalore. When you think about it and everything, it really wasn't that difficult. It didn't take that much.
yeah.
Yeah, David, let me ask you a question, man.
Mm.
what was your expectations coming in for season 3? Were you thinking that, man, this is really going to deliver on all facets, or were you kind of just let's see what happens kind of approach?
Well, I think the whole Book of Boba Fett experience worried me a little bit. So going in, I I've talked about this before. I don't really try and go in with expectations, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, okay, what are they going to do to top Luke showing up? Um, so with this finale, I mean, I figured we were going to get something that was very hard hitting, major stakes involved. I thought certain characters might die. There was a rumor out there that Din
Yeah.
Djarin might die. And then you think about all the Pedro Pascal stuff and the fact that he was recording and filming The Last of Us during the same time. That's why we probably didn't see his face. And in every finale, we saw Pedro Pascal's face, but he might have not been there at that time. And then you got Brendan Wayne talking in the media saying that it's going to leave you feeling some kind of way in the end. But with all that talk, you think that there's going to be something major and very heavy that's going to take place. And nothing like that really happened. There's some points where I was really kind of on the edge of my seat, kind of nervous about the whole fact that Grogu was fighting Praetorian guards by himself and the door
Yeah.
closes. And I was thinking, are they going to end the season like that? Because, I mean, you figure they'd have to end it maybe on some type of cliffhanger. And they kind of, I think to most people, they wrapped up the series in this episode. But since I'm me and I'm really into Star Wars, I know the fact that Jon Favreau wants to do another season. He said he's written season 4, and I brought that up to other people, other podcasters, and they're like, "Well, he could be lying." It's like, well, I guess, but we know that there's other series coming out that tie into the Mandalorian, and when you look at the fact that they have the Grogu puppet, they have several of them, $1 million puppets. They're gonna want to utilize them in more series. I think that's
Yeah.
just common sense thinking. But to go to Maddie's point, I really do wonder that too. It's like, why don't they just give us what we want and just exhaust that at the get go? And then they can do the new stuff. My biggest problem with The Last Jedi was Ryan Johnson did the thing he wanted to do with the trilogy they awarded him with The Last Jedi. He kind of changed it all up when they could have just given us what we wanted and would have been like kind of satisfied. And it feels like there's a real kind of Last Jedi vibe with this finale, because you look online and some people love it and some people are kind of confused by it. I think most of us are kind of a little confused by how it ended up, and maybe there's like a disconnect now with the writing with Jon Favreau, and he's just kind of not on the same page as the fans anymore. He's too successful and too high up there now, because you look at Mandalorian season 1 and season 2, pretty much perfect almost. I don't know what kind of complaints you guys have about those seasons, but
Perfect.
that season 2, the introductions of Cobb Vanth and Boba Fett, Ahsoka, I mean,
Incredible.
it was spot on, man. That I think got us hyped and made us all think Star Wars was back, and there's someone in there that kind
Don't
of
you think
gets it.
though? Didn't you hear the rumors about Favreau and Kennedy
Yep.
Yeah,
going to
I've heard that
close?
talk that he kind of like stormed off when Kathleen Kennedy was trying to like change up story and said you have to do
But
this,
it
and
feels like she succeeded because,
well, she's the boss.
well,
She
yeah, but this isn't but that goes back to the point. Kathleen Kennedy sucks. Everybody knows that. But this at no point felt like a Western. The
Not
last two seasons were Westerns.
right.
This had a completely different theme. It had a completely different vibe to it altogether. It seemed like if I'm Jon Favreau, I take that season 4, I roll it up and say Kobe into the trash can, and go on and do something else, because if she's gonna have that kind of control and shift the tone and vibe of a show that's perfect as it is, it just I'm pissed off about it a little bit. I just want to
Well,
go give John a hug.
right.
Dude, they're gonna give us they're gonna give us Jack the Rabbit. Once they give us Jack, we'll be all happy.
Jackson. Yeah,
Jackson.
I actually got him right here somewhere. But yeah, I see what you're saying. But I mean, Favreau could be playing it like I'm just waiting for Kathleen Kennedy to retire, and I'll step in and I'll be president.
Hey, that would be the day.
True.
That would be amazing. Yeah. I also think that, you know, maybe it's Filoni. His shift is looking further down the line. This movie is now his main focus, and everything coming before that needs to now build to that. Where Mandalorian season 1 builds up to the finale of season 2, I think everything going forward is now going to be a build up to this crossover movie, mega movie, where they bring all these folks in here, all these characters across multiple projects, and that could just be what it is now. Like, let's go ahead and bring down our expectations a little bit. They're gonna play not safe, but we won't have arc ending seasons anymore. We're not going to see plot driven shows going forward, except for a few episodes here and there that really drive the plot forward. But when it comes to that movie is going to have to be a spectacle. It's going to have to be everything you want it to be. It's going to have to be $1 billion film, and they're going to have to save their best creative ideas for that film, whatever it may be. If whether it's a Thrawn movie, or whether it's leading to the First Order really coming into their own and about to increase their power overall. Like, that's going to be a very difficult challenge, if you ask me. Putting that movie and coming out with that, but
And Cameron Monaghan, maybe. Would be great.
That's such a no-brain idea
let's
to
bring in
do.
Cal Kestis,
Yeah.
and but they could have brought him in this season. I think it works. But if not, then he has to be in season 4. And if he's not in season 4, Mando, then he has to be in whatever movie they have coming on. I mean, of course, we don't know the video game script yet, so I haven't played the game to the end. So for all I know, Cal Kestis could, go away. So I don't know yet. But I assume that he doesn't. And that's one of those big wow moments. Like, it's not a Luke moment, but it's like one of those wow moments that would have happened that would have just made fans be like, holy hell. And now the video game releases in a few days.
True.
Just
LeBron Fetts in the chat saying this season seems like a romantic buddy cop movie. Yeah, I could see that for sure. It kind of had that little quirkiness to it, and we kind of thought there might be something going on between Bo and Din, but that didn't turn up as anything. It just turned into a very platonic friendship, pretty much.
well, for all we know, for all
Kenobi is
we
saying,
don't
"I'm
know
confused
anything.
why Din and Grogu." That's true. That's true.
You know what this
General
season
Kenobi says,
3 of
"I'm
The
confused why
Mandalorian
Din
had?
and Grogu showed up in Gideon scanners, but no one else did." Ah, very interesting.
Yeah,
And
this
why
season of The
Grogu was
Mandalorian
green.
felt very Turner and Hooch, Matty B.
Turner and
Yeah.
Hooch.
Yeah. Yeah, the whole thing was just kind of weird. They just didn't write it well. It just wasn't written well. That's all.
Hey, Grogu's becoming Brad Pitt. He's always having to be eating something in every scene.
Oh, there you go.
When he got to the bar, he's already eating the freaking chips or whatever there at the very end.
And what is that? IG-11, the robot,
Yeah.
and IG-12.
Yeah.
Can we just now agree? I mean, how many of these have we seen destroyed in the past few? Can we just in the first season, this was the most impossible thing to kill. It went through lava, fire, bullets, and we've seen these things now. It's just like crushing a Coke can. Can we restore IG-11 to a prominent phase, please? He gets crushed in every scene. And why can't Grogu move a 2-pound pipe off of him? Anyways, if we keep going, I'm going to keep going. But
A
we've covered
2-pound
it.
hollow pipe at that, Matt.
Yeah.
He was about to. It's not like I don't
Yeah.
think he was struggling. He was just like, let me move this, and then he's like, oh no,
But
I'm
he could have
toast.
literally just pushed them all away. He could
Little-
have
He was out of energy.
A little dazed.
yeah.
Yeah, little days, a little out of
Get the kid a
energy.
granola bar. Get this kid a Cliff Bar.
I hear you.
You know what he needs? He needs some of those Mexico snacks, man. Those things are fire, dude.
Yeah, I'm big time on Mexico right now. I'm actually brushing up on my Spanish. I'm gonna have to work it out with you, Joe, on the phone. Lauren got into the hot tub, and I had
Ah,
gotten some knowledge from the locals. And there's a bunch of locals sitting around us in this hot tub, and she walks in. I said, "Hola, mami, tu chichis es muy grande."
oh,
And it sent the hot tub into a frenzy.
oh
I got a
man.
lot of free beers off of that one.
They said, "Mira este gringo."
Uh,
Wow.
They said, "I like your
Wow.
style, Maddie."
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how we
okay.
top that now for the rest of the stream. Lastly, I'll just kind of say that really really odd decisions kind of throughout. Like I mentioned earlier, the first half of this episode seemed really entertaining. We were getting to some action scenes. Things were moving at a decent pace, but then that pace never really slowed down, and the payoffs didn't resonate as I think they wanted to. For those who loved this episode, if you thought this was an incredible episode, that's totally fine. We're not telling you to not like it for sure. I just think that I want to still be interested in where the story goes going forward. And once this episode ends, I'm not interested on what happens after this. And that's a really, really odd feeling to have watching anything really Star Wars. I guess maybe I felt that way after The Last Jedi, because that in a lot of ways felt like it was ending a story as well, if you ask me. But we'll see what happens going forward. I think Ahsoka is going to be a major step in the right direction. I think Rosario Dawson can do no wrong. So I'm really hoping for just a solid plot-driven series going forward, and we have a lot of cameos that have already been explained and shown in the trailer. So we'll see what happens. Oh my gosh. Well, thanks for everybody in the chat. If you're watching this at a later time, we want to hear from you. What did you think about the finale of The Mandalorian season 3? If you're listening to us on the podcast version of the show, you can always email us on the contact page of our website at www.countdowncitygeeks.com. Stay tuned and check out our website for future movie reviews. Just caught Evil Dead Rise last night. Wow. If you are a fan of the franchise, you are in for a wild ride. It is an absolute treat. If you are very familiar with the style of the previous films, I think you have a lot to look forward to. Also, um, go to our Linktree page, and I'll put it in the chat just a minute. But join our giveaway emailing list. We're going to be giving away passes to the Fast X film, uh, the 10th Fast and Furious film. If you're interested in that, join our email giveaway list, and you will be the first to find out when those passes go up for grabs, and you will have the best opportunity to do that. And that'll do it for us for the Countdown City Geeks. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me on this Mandalorian Season 3 review is the man behind the magic, Joe Garcia.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Greatly appreciate it. And like always, make sure you go ahead and give us a like, subscribe and share everything and anything that we do here at the Countdown City Geeks. And make sure you go and check out all the great content we have at countdowncitygeeks.com. We'll talk to you all later. And it was great talking Mandalorian, the season 3 finale with all of you guys.
From the Star Wars Stuff podcast, Mr. Dave Lozano.
Make sure you hit like, subscribe. This is the way.
Mm.
My partner in crime, the one and only Matty B.
Hey, I'm so glad to be back, and I can't wait to kind of get back in the groove. Ted, we're gonna do. I think we should do another ghost test maybe this week or early next week. We got a lot of things to talk about and things to uncover. So make sure that you check into that, and definitely follow David. He's got a lot of celebration content. So go to Star Wars Stuff, follow him, and support the Geekcast and all our affiliates. What about you, Ray?
Well, got some cool stuff. I mean, we got some lot of stuff that we've been working on. Me and General Kenobi just did an interview with the 3D sculptor Sarah. She created a lot of the Star Wars figures and also Power Rangers
For
and stuff like
Hasbro.
that. That should be dropping pretty. Yeah, for Hasbro, that should be dropping out pretty soon once Obi-Wan puts it together. And we got other interviews that we've got lined up down the line for Ghost Heads, Matty B. We're just waiting to schedule that one for the writer who did the Turner crossover with the
Yeah,
Ghostbusters.
we're back in the saddle now.
We
We're
got-
back in the saddle.
Yeah, we got that lined up. I mean, like I said, stay tuned, like us, put a review in there. Like I said, we got more content coming, man. I think you're on mute, Matt.
Oh, my bad. That'll do it for us. We'll see you guys next week.